Aidan Hutchinson spoke to the media yesterday and had a lot of good sound bites regarding his return, just his mindset, his expectations for myself. There's 3 clips in there, and Chase, just
which one you want, Sam?
Pick whichever one.
All right. Well,
yep, just go at random.
I gotcha.
Please.
What's the next, I guess, hurdle for you in terms of getting back to doing everything?
I'm fully cleared. Yeah.
Great.
Oh no, I actually know which one that was.
Okay.
Basically, Aidan Hutchinson was asked about any trepidations about coming back due to injury, and he said, "I'm fully cleared," and that's a great sign, because I often hear people at this network and even in the chat, and I'm not blaming anybody for that, wonder if they should slow play Aidan Hutchinson, if he's going to have some lingering effects from the injury going into next year. And I've always said, even going back to last year, it was a clean break, obviously a very gruesome and painful injury that kept him out for the rest of the season. But at the end of the day, I didn't expect it to be something that lingered into the season or even into training camp. And I think right now it's all mental for him. Maybe even in training camp once he gets hit, especially during games, once he gets that first couple of hits, I think he'll be relatively close to back to normal. People forget, and it wasn't as gruesome as this one, but in the 2020 season, the nightmare COVID-shortened Michigan 2020 season, Aidan Hutchinson broke his ankle, missed the majority of that season, came back in 2021, had that 14 sack season, was a Heisman finalist, and that is ultimately what catapulted him into becoming the 2nd overall draft pick by our Detroit Lions. The reason I mention that is that Aidan Hutchinson, this wasn't his first injury. This is his first major injury. This isn't his first go-around. He has had experience coming back from bad injuries, particularly to the leg, ankle area. So I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about him getting off to a slow start. I think he will be just fine.
Yeah, me too. I have no concern, and I heard Dr. Pierce as well with Braylon and I believe Anton yesterday. He said he's not worried. He believes he's definitely over the physical component of it. And one of the things that, in addition to secret sauce that the doc focuses on, is the mental aspect of it, or he calls mental scarring. He believes that just the natural positive person that Aidan Hutchinson is, the worker he is, and how quickly he attacked all of that, the rehab and all of that, he does believe that Aidan Hutchinson is beyond even the mental component that comes with, am I going to injure this again? And sometimes can make you play just a little bit timid. What up, Doug?
I kind of like what you guys are talking about. We have 2 other clips, Sam. You want me to play those for you as well now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I would say there's motivation not from it getting taken away, but
do you want them back to back?
Me putting that on tape, and I had a lot of growth in those first 5 games to where I feel like you evolve as a player, and things were clicking at a high level, and I had a lot of thoughts at the time that were like, if I'm thinking about a golf swing, you have the good swing thoughts going on. Like, that's kind of pass rush, and I had these good pass rush thoughts, good things going on, and I feel like that's just going to carry over, and I'm going to continue to build on that. And so I think a lot of people, believe that is kind of like my ceiling, but I still believe that, I'm going to continue to push for those greater heights. And, I'm 24, I'm still a young dude, and I think I have a lot of, I don't think that's the peak. That's the. Yeah, I mean, whenever you get injured, or even not even to my severity, if you're off the field, it's right when you step back on it, it's you get to do what you love again, and eventually, I think that naturally fades over time, and you try to be as grateful as you can, but I don't think anybody in the game of football will ever be as grateful when I come back in that first game and I get to play football and I get to do it on the big stage again. But that's what it's all about. It's the comeback. I'm back, but it's just being able to do what I love again on the biggest stage. Just that's what sets my heart on fire right there.
Hey, that was Aidan Hutchinson. Basically says he can't wait to get back on the field. doing back to what he loves on the biggest stage. We obviously know when watching him and just knowing the type of player and person he is, that he loves football. He just lives for moments like that, getting sacks in playoff games last year, being on a record-setting pace this year until he got hurt. And he also mentioned in one of the clips that he does not feel like he has hit his ceiling yet. He does not think that last season was the peak. And I'll tell you what, I think all of us think that if he would have stayed healthy, he would have won Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously, we can't live in that mindset and treat it as gospel, but he had 7.5 sacks in 5 games. If there aren't too many defensive ends who have ever lived who could be much better than what Aidan Hutchinson showed last year. I know that sounds like a kind of a crazy statement, but
that's not
if
crazy,
there's another level for him to go to, I mean, watch out offensive tackles all throughout the league.
I believe there is another level for Aidan Hutchinson to go to. Absolutely. I didn't think that he was in his prime. I just thought he was just entering into it, and we saw this man get off to a great level. We knew that the pressures were there, and just some minor tweaks to technique and over pursuit issues was going to get him at least more sacks. Easily. I still don't think that from an overall technique standpoint, he's reached the ceiling there, which could make him that much more formidable, even if the sack numbers don't go up, just from being disruptive in the backfield, snuffing out run plays, snuffing out even end arounds, because he's just that agile and nimble. It was cool to hear the doc, shout out to Dr. Pierce, talk about his background and things that used to get him teased, like ballet. But you're looking at how nimble he is now, even on some of the plays where he's gotten the interceptions, and his ability to snuff out the play, make an athletic read on the ball, and then literally, make some spin moves while he's running back down the field. I do believe that there's more for Aidan Hutchinson here. And I saw some people talking about his hat that you saw there. Shout out to the House of Hutch, which is his official motivational marketplace of Detroit Lions of Hutchinson. It benefits his nonprofit, Hutch's Heroes. So I know he goes over to Mott's Children's Hospital in Ann Arbor, and he did a lot of charitable work there, which is another component of why the doctor believes he's going to be ready. He said that his mindset overall, from how he worked on the field to get back to how he continued to be as an individual day by day, he just didn't let his mind settle or plateau or get caught up in even some of the negative aspects of it. So when you do hear these things where he's saying, I got another level to go, that's because that's who he's always shown himself to be. That's why he probably blew through all of our expectations. Like correct me if I'm wrong, bro. You are as big an Aidan Hutchinson supporter as you're going to find. And there are slappies here for Aidan Hutchinson, and you're probably still one of the bigger ones. Did he still blow through your expectations in those first 4 games of the season?
Yes, 100%. 100%. And my expectations have always been just a little bit different than the average fan. I think I've been a little bit more reasonable. I'm never going to do something silly like call for 20 sacks. I'm never going to call for he's got to win Defensive Player of the Year or it's a failed season. I think sometimes sacks, I'm not going to say that they're random. Obviously, if you win your one-on-ones, if you can split double teams, if you can get a ton of pressures and hits, sacks will come. But my point has always been is I've seen Aidan Hutchinson have multiple games in which he's been highly impactful and has wrecked games at times, been good against the run, got a ton of quarterback hits and pressures, but didn't get any sacks. And that's okay. My only ask for him is that at the very least get into double digits. Anything 9 or lower in a full season, that's where I'm like, okay, that's not good enough. But I'm never gonna, he might get 13, 14 sacks and still have a phenomenal year. Some people hear that and say, well, wait a minute. Aren't we talking about him being Defensive Player of the Year? I do think in the next 5 years he's going to get one. But I also think there's going to be times where he just gets a ton of pressures, a ton of quarterback hits, and is very impactful, but doesn't always get home, and that's okay. And the Lions are going to win a lot of those games, so people shouldn't care. But like I said, he will win one Defensive Player of the Year in the next 5 years. That's the one thing I will call for.
I do think that's a take that is easily agreed upon. I think everyone in this room thinks that he's going to win a DPOY in the next 5 years. And I just think that doesn't define his success, though. Like, I'm not going to define his success with an All-Pro or a Defensive Player of the Year. If he's coming out here, he's putting up double-digit sacks, he's being the catalyst for this defense, he's completely making this pass rush elite like he did at the beginning of last year, that's all I need. I need this pass rush to be Super Bowl level, and that's what Aidan Hutchinson does for you. He makes you a Super Bowl level pass rush, and so I think it's honestly more important that he just gets acclimated at the start of the season. I don't even need stats. I just want to see him making plays and getting close. It can be pressures for all I care. I don't even need the sacks. I just need him to be disruptive. I need him to start getting into his element so that by the time the playoffs come around and he's healthy this time around, you're going to see a completely different Lions team than what you saw last year in the playoffs.
I like your perspective on that, too. It's the same one that Terry Foster and Broder and Belegian have been talking about on the Lions Weekly Update for a couple weeks now as it relates to that. This season, realistically, is about what they do in the playoffs. That there's a lot of people, obviously, Dan Campbell, the Lions are going to go game by game. They're going to value each regular season game. But after the last couple seasons, how people are going to judge them is based on what happens then. And so if you can have them on that pace, I can appreciate that outlook, but part of me believes if Hutch feels like he's a go, and if the doctors are saying he's a go from day one, I believe that he's going to be going out there trying to get 5 sacks in game one, especially after everything that he lost and missed out on last year. He was talking greasy. He was like, look, man, I'm going to be back for the Super Bowl. And even all of us were like, hey, we hope so. But even us, we're like, man, it look like he's going to be back.
He wouldn't have been, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm not going to hold that against him.
I don't hold it against him, but I mean, it's that mindset, though, that allows me to believe comfortably that there's another level for Aidan Hutchinson and makes me excited for it. And, I do agree with the mindset of Chase. You have to think long term for this team, even as it relates to the scope of this season. It is about the playoffs, and you need a healthy Aidan Hutchinson for the playoffs. That's really the script that the Eagles wrote just last season, and it was so frustrating to hear over and over and over and over and over again the fact from all the different national media and all of the different publications, the taglines that continue to talk about the Eagles are healthy. The Eagles are healthy. The Eagles got all their starters. Yeah. And then our guys got literally 21, 22 players on the IR. And we know that injuries played such a vital, crucial role in why the season turned up the way that it did. So I actually agree with that perspective to a large degree, Chase.
But, yeah, I mean, I like the long term. I mean, it's like obviously you want to win now. I mean, you gotta like find a way to balance the two. You know what I mean? Yeah. So kind of like we were talking yesterday on Big D as far as like, the trade for Paul Skeens and like that hypothetical that was flying around with Bleacher Report. I know we're kind of switching up the sport a little bit, but I mean, if there's something like that comes along, like you gotta be willing to push the chips in the moment. But at the same time, like football, like it's there is a salary cap. There is a lot more to think about long term than compared to the MLB. So I do like the way Brad Holmes is very like responsibly been like building the team and like doling out this money and stuff like that. So I mean, I've been all on board.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to ask you too, man. The strategy here, you hear how eager he is to get going, Flannel Sam. Are you more for the strategy of easing him into the season with the playoffs as really your main focus, or are you like, look, if the doctors say he's a go, if he believes he's a go, let him start from day one and have everything he can have this season?
I think you just got to let him go. I know that flies in the face of the only thing that really matters is playoffs at this point, but you can't put a muzzle on somebody with a motor like Aidan Hutchinson. Maybe if you want to rotate him in and out a little bit more, I'm not necessarily upset with that. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, in snaps, at least at the beginning of the year, in snaps when Aidan Hutchinson is off the field and Ali McNeil will be off the field, that pass rush is not going to be great. So I think Aidan Hutchinson is actually coming back into a situation where he's very much needed. And I
forgot about that.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Man, because, when we're just talking in a vacuum about Aidan Hutchinson, it's easier to make those, should we ease him in or not? But you're talking about a defensive line that's not going to be at full strength, even if Aidan Hutchinson starts the year game one hitting the ground running.
And this is, I want to read something from Chuckle Cheese because I want to make a distinction. How is calling for 20 sacks ridiculous? The guy from Cincinnati had 17.5, Trey Hendrickson. In back-to-back years, he's not on Hutchinson's level. Yes, I agree that Trey Hendrickson put up stupid sack numbers the last couple of years, but he's not as good of an overall defensive end as Aidan Hutchinson. And credit to Trey Hendrickson for the last 2 seasons he's had. Like, all the credit in the world to him. I think there's a distinction, though, that I want to make. I would not be surprised if Aidan Hutchinson got 20 sacks this year, I would not be shocked. And I think that would result him winning in Defensive Player of the Year. However, I think it's a little irresponsible to call for 20 sacks. It's happened 10 times in the history of the NFL. It doesn't just grow on trees. I mean, Lawrence Taylor, widely considered the greatest to ever do it from the edge rusher position, did it one time in his entire career. Just once. 20 sacks is an insane amount. And that's where I just want to caution the fan base a little bit. I fought battles for Aidan Hutchinson back in 2023. I thought a portion of the fan base was way too hard on him. I do think most people have, though, turned to being like Aidan Hutchinson fanboys and Aidan Hutchinson supporters, as we should be. But you also have to remember, he had 7.5 sacks in 5 games. All I want from the fan base is to keep that same energy if he goes a game or 2 or 3 without a sack. It's not the end of the world. As long as he is still being impactful, it's fine. If he doesn't get 20 sacks, but he gets 13, 14, is great against the run, gets a ton of pressures and hits, and the Lions win the division again, that is a phenomenal season. And then in the playoffs, that's where, you ride again. Get sacks, pressures, hits, everything's fine.
Just briefly before I throw it over to Kavasi, I think the word that I really like that I've heard from that dude Justin, I've used it, I think you've used it as well, Fano, is you just really want to see him be disruptive.